It's Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Since 2010, your weekly source for independent New York Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, from the Joe Goldstein studio, here's your host, Mark Fishkin.
Hello. It's Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Only 3 weeks to go. Less than 3 weeks, actually, before the Red Bulls kick it off in Orlando. I'm here with my friends Daniel Rebane and Michael Batista. Tonight on Seeing Red, the Red Bulls find their third DP. Just who is Jorge Ruvalcaba? We'll get into it. Noah Eile has been sent away for a big, massive pile of cash, and we'll talk about what it means for the Red Bulls backline. New York has a preseason win under their belt on a freezing pitch in East Hanover. Our guest tonight is Joe Pantorno of AM New York. And as always, your emails, now the Keepers Mailbag, which is a really fantastic segue to this. The opening night of the 2026 MLS season, we will be live at Keepers in Harrison, on the corner of River Bend and Higgins Drive, right across from Sports Illustrated Stadium in Harrison. Please come. We're doing a live pregame show at 7 o'clock before the Red Bulls take on Orlando City in Central Florida. If you need to go to opentable.com and reserve a table, you can do that. It's not necessary. You want to come and stand and sit at the bar and just kind of watch the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. These clowns will be here. Our friend Gustavo Guimaraes will be here, and we're going to get you all ready. And we're really excited. We're excited to have a partnership with Keepers this year. And so, yeah, let's kick it off. Gentlemen, first of all, how are you, Dan? What's going on?
I'm doing well. Start of a new week. Getting at it, like you just said, 3 weeks until opening game. I mean, time's flying.
Time is definitely flying.
Yeah, definitely good.
Mr. Batista, you in preseason form? What's going on?
Oh, man. Dude, it's preseason form in the sense that I don't know what's going on anymore, and I've lost track of time. That is 3 weeks away. It doesn't feel like it feels like nothing and everything has happened since the end of the season.
Yeah, it really has. Let's get into it. This week, out of nowhere, we hear that Jorge Ruvalcaba has become the Red Bulls' third DP. Now, it's been a very long time since New York has had three DPs, and we know that a lot of the story over the second half of 2025 is whether or not the Red Bulls were going to bring in another player to complement Emil Forsberg and Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting, and it has finally happened. Ruvalcaba is only 24 years old. He comes into the Red Bull franchise from Pumas in Liga MX. While he is an American and does not require an international slot, he is a member of the Mexican national team. He has one cap that was last year, 84 caps and 14 goals from Pumas. He's a speedy winger, and he will really prove to be the right-handed side of the field, where you've got Cade Cowell on the left, you've got Ruvalcaba on the right, and you've got Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting up top, and you've got Forsberg supporting all them. And all of a sudden, I think all the questions about what New York's attack's going to be has been solved. Who wants to go first and talk about Ruvi? Yes, Dan, you got it.
Well, first I'll say I think Cade and Ruvalcaba will be switched, where Ruvalcaba's on the left, Cade Cowell's on the right. But coming into the season, one of the biggest needs for me in the offense and the attack was pace, and they lacked pace last year. So they had two of the fastest guys in the league now to this roster. On the edges of Choupo-Moting and Emil Forsberg, and we've seen it last year with Michael Bradley's two team, that he wants his wingers to press, and these guys have pace to burn. They've got the gas tank to go at it. So from the clips I've seen, from video I've seen of him last year, especially his breakout season in Liga MX, I mean, this guy is definitely, he has the capability of being a star for Red Bull. So if he's able to do what he did last season specifically with Red Bull this year, I mean, it's a home run. It's a home run signing for Red Bull, and I'm very excited. This is definitely something they've needed. More dynamic ability on the wings, that one-on-one ability, and he's got it in bunches. So good signing from them.
Sir, Mr. Batista, thoughts on Ruva?
You guys talk about the Mexican national team. We signed a dude who played UPSL soccer.
Division two college soccer as well. Like
Division two college soccer, playing in the depths of the UPSL, playing for FC Golden State Force in like the NPSL. I'm like, this man has been. Oh, this guy has all the sicko requirements for me. I will say that it's good. Like you were saying, 3 DP spots filled up, and unlike a lot of, it's very funny that we went from Timo Werner and like everyone talking about this. Could it happen?
Yes.
Could it happen to? No, nothing's happened. Oh, something happened. Like no, like this was not rumored at all.
No,
and this was not talked about until like the day before. So to see it happen, I mean, it's just kind of refreshing in a way to see that happen. And it seems that we can Red Bull can make deals with teams from other countries, unlike the other team from New York right now.
Yeah, I don't care one bit about them. I will tell you there are 2 really interesting points of his contract. First of all, the fact that his DP status is confirmed for this coming year, but he remains TAM eligible in out years, which means he can be bought down with TAM from his DP status, which would then open the slot to bring in more players. The other thing is, and it's almost unheard of, a 4.5-year contract is a major investment in this player. And the $6.5 million is reported the franchise paid for him is bigger than the Kaku buy. I mean, he is the most expensive player that the Red Bulls have ever spent on. And he's going to be here till he has an option for 2030, 31, which is far beyond a number that I'd ever really considered, frankly. He is going to be providing a ton of depth. And frankly, and we're going to hear me talk about this with Joe Pantorno, if you're Cam Harper and you're working back from injury, you're even further from the starting lineup. And if you're Mohamed Sofo, who was on the back of a milk carton in the second half of the year last year, I think minutes are going to be very, very hard to come by. I mean, you are literally going to be, making 15 and 10-minute appearances and injury time appearances. So yes, you absolutely want these young players. And to be fair, Cal and Ruvalcaba are relatively young players still. But those Red Bull names that that fans know, I think are a lot further from seeing the field. For
the thing, minutes. The 4-year contract, the 4.5-year contract too. It's because he's out of Mexico. It opens up a lot of doors for him because I think we all 3 of us know that Mexican teams have this really bad tendency, which in recent years has slightly stopped, but they don't sell outwardly to Europe because they overvalue their players. So you sign this guy for 4.5 years. If he stunts out in the first 2 years, you can start, like, if the offer is there to sell him high, like you couldn't make a lot on that. Now, am I gonna say that, like, is that the plan? I don't know. Like, they're probably trying him to like do well in MLS, but because you are now taking a player who like has Mexican national team experience, who is young, the door is going to open for him to search and like be shopped around more versus teams in Europe will go, God, I'm not going to try and pay that high of a price tag from Tigres right now.
That's fine. I mean, as an asset, he certainly a purchase, but he has value, but he has more value scoring goals for Metro, right? I mean, yes, in the future years, thinking about what he may be worth if he continues to develop, absolutely. But what this team needs is dynamism and attack, which, as we know, during last year was lacking. So very, very excited to see him. And also interesting, I know, Dan, you have a comment. The fact that Bradley said during his press conference this week, he was the first player that the scouting department showed him once he took the job. And he became more and more enamored with Ruva as he saw more of him. So really, really exciting and good stuff by the front office. Dan?
Yeah, no, I just want to say, are opportunities for Cam Harper and Mohamed Sofa going to come down? Sure. But you know what? I think bringing in a guy like Kate Cow, bringing in a guy like Jorge Ruvalcaba is big because you know why? Iron sharpens iron. Now it forces these guys that, you know, they needed to play last year to come off the bench now and work harder in training to kind of fight for these minutes. And I'll just say this, Kate Cow is only on loan for a year, you know, option to buy, yes. So his role in the starting lineup is not as solid as people might think. So if Cameron Harper is outperforming him, he's going to be in the starting lineup. If Mohamed Asofo is outperforming Kate Cow, he's going to be in the starting lineup. So I think it just forces those guys kind of on the bench looking for extra minutes to work even harder now in training to kind of go at each other and work for you know those minutes, because now they're just not going to be given to them. Now they got to work for them.
Yeah, I like that. All in all, the fact that he's dynamic and the fact that he's creative, I think is going to be a big win for the Red Bulls, and fans won't be able to complain anymore that the team has an open DP spot. No, not about that. They'll find things to complain about, to be clear, just not that. Of course, the soccer gods giveth and the soccer gods taketh away. Our old friend Gerhard Struber taketh away from New York by nabbing Noah Eile. New York's, I mean, I think we have to say CB1 on the depth chart before he departed, 23 years old. Eile had a fantastic evolution over his 2 seasons in New York. He was famously thrown on the pitch at MLS Cup 2024 with seconds notice when Andres Reyes couldn't go. But nevertheless, I thought Eile was New York's best and most consistent defender in 2025. And you knew this day was coming. I think as the transfer window went on and as preseason started for New York, you didn't think he was going to go right now. You knew he was going to go, just not right now. But nevertheless, it's a great opportunity for Eile to play, move to England and play in Bristol. And we wish him all the best. Really stand-up guy, mature beyond his years. Always a good interview. Really, really sad to see him go, because it means that the New York backline is in somewhat disarray. But thoughts in general on the departure?
Yeah. Oh, no, go first, Mike.
You go first, Mike.
I'll make it brief in that I feel like once Red Bulls picked him up and he was doing well, this wasn't a Dylan Nealis situation or a Tim Parker situation. You knew Noah could leave, and you knew he probably would leave because he was young. He was not going to be an MLS lifer. I feel like I expected it personally at the end of this season.
Yes.
But as you saw, as time went on in preseason, I was like, oh, maybe. Like it just felt like something he wasn't there as much. So it's shocking that the Red Bulls did this, in the sense that how many center backs can this team afford to lose? But at the same time, if anyone's deserved a shot in Europe, it's him. And it just kind of also makes me laugh that he did it in record time compared to John Tolkien, and compared to other players. But I think that just goes to show of how mature beyond his years he is, and how much he has proven himself on this field, not just in the MLS Cup season of 2024, the MLS Cup final appearance season of 2024, but in the downtrodden season of 2025. A lot of times he was the guy that you look towards on that back line when everyone else is getting bullied.
Dan, your thoughts on Eile?
Yeah, it's a massive loss. I mean, very clearly that he was, center back 1, and then there was a big drop off to center back 2 and Robert Veloder. So, they're gonna have to look for replacements ASAP. 1, not if 2, maybe even 2 guys, right? So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, good opportunity for him to get back to Europe in the championship with Bristol. I kind of want to note that Red Bull announced that it was a record transfer for a defender.
It was not, was it?
Their record transfer is $5 million. So maybe the reported fee is more or less than what they actually got, because they got $5 million for Matt Miazga back in 2016. So interesting.
I know that at times the front office seems to believe that the team is only 4 or 5 years old. So that could be it. And listen, we all make mistakes. Lord knows I make plenty in the details around things like that. But yeah, it was Miazga with the $5 million transfer to
Pretty
Chelsea.
Penny though. So
and for what they got him for, a massive, massive win. And again, when you're in a selling league, which almost all the leagues in the world are, you have to strike gold when the iron's hot. Bristol right now 10th in the championship. They're only 4 points out of a playoff spot. They've allowed 36 goals in 30 matches, which is not so bad. But I know that Eile, it's a step up for him. And again, we wish him the best. But I think this opens the question, which is who is actually on the Red Bulls back line? Because as we talked about, as Dan mentioned, there are only 2 natural center backs currently as part of that unit. One of them is Tim Parker. One of them is a newly arrived Robert Voloder. We heard from Dylan Nealis earlier this week at the press conference that, in fact, Bradley had reached out to him over the offseason and let him know that he will be playing some center back this year. Newly arrived Justin Che also can play center back and will play center back. And so I think while the Red Bull front office is certainly interested in bringing in more center back talent, it may be a little bit of center back by committee through the early weeks of the season. Mike, any thoughts?
I have about as many thoughts as the Red Bulls have center backs.
So you have 2.
Yeah, the 2 thoughts are: we've seen this game before. What was his name? I can't remember his name. The guy, the English guy we had on loan, Tom something.
Tom Edwards.
We saw this game with Tom Edwards. We're like, we're just gonna put him in center back. It's gonna be fine. You're putting a square peg in a round hole. It's gonna be fine. And then we destroyed his confidence, and he had to go back to England. Do I think Dylan Nealis is going to have his confidence destroyed and go back to Long Island? No. But it's more the fact that I understand how long ago that was. God, that was before the pandemic. Jesus. But at the same time, I am not a fan of just, we're going to make the pieces we have work, the way we do. We signed 3 designated players. We can't figure out a back line, and we're just going to put Red Bull 2 guys there, I assume. I don't know.
Well, I mean, here are the guys that are identified as defenders on the roster. Raheem Edwards, not a center back. Juan Mina, who went from not really being part of the show anymore to playing in preseason games 3 weeks before the season starts. Dylan Nealis. It's only Nealis now, right? Parker, Omar Valencia, not a center back at all, but on the defensive line, and Voloder. So that's 7 players with 2 natural players in the middle. Maybe you play 3 in the back when you've only got 1 center back. I don't know. Maybe it dictates how you play. But yeah, it'll be a little bit of a ride. And anything else on this before we move on?
2 strikers up top.
Yeah, no. I mean, we talk about the retooling of this roster, and the back line and goalkeeper was the biggest thing that changed on this team. Like when you look at the back line currently as we sit, right? You have Omar Valencia, who was kind of back and forth. He was the starter at the beginning of the year, but kind of lost his position, right? Then you got Robert Voloder coming in. He's new. You got Tim Parker, who, started a handful of games here and there, but I mean, he'd be new in the starting 11 if he's going to be, the guy to start the year, right? And then you got Justin Che at right back. So, and then Ethan Horvath in the back. So all these guys kind of haven't played together yet in a single game other than Valencia and Tim Parker. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of mesh together, kind of find that chemistry. But yeah, to bring up your point, Mike, about, Red Bull 2 people filling in, they don't have any center backs right now either. So
did the U16s have any center backs?
The U18s got one good prospect, but we'll see in a couple of years.
All right. 5? Are you just
waving? I'm raising my hand.
Yes, Mike.
Before we move on, can I pick Rebane's brain about something real quick?
Sure, man.
Off the cuff,
because we're talking about the back line, and I have a quick question for you about part of the back line, and that's goalkeeper. Because Red Bull 2 just signed Hutt today about, as a goalkeeper. This team has 6 goalkeepers.
7.
They do.
7. What is our plan at goalkeeper, and why do we have so many goalkeepers?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Like, you have 5 first-team goalkeepers signed to contracts. You got 2 on the second team, right? Two of the 5 on the first team are teenagers, right? And you kind of want them to play as many games as possible in the pro setting, right? But those 2 are competing for minutes against each other, and then against the other 2 that are with Red Bull 2. So it's kind of like one's got to go on loan, in my opinion. One has to go on loan because, Toby's ready to make that jump to the second team. But so is Aiden. Aiden's ready to make that kind of jump to the first team. Maybe not be a full-time starter, but he's kind of ready to make that decision if he's ready to be a first-team goalkeeper of the future, right? So it's going to be interesting. I talked to Dominic, the Red Bull 2 coach today, and he's talked about all 4 of those guys, and it's not about giving one keeper the role. It's about those guys have to compete for the job. So for right now, the plan is to have all 4, I guess, compete against each other for the one goalkeeper spot. But I think one of those young keepers have to, be sent out on loan or something, because I think Toby's ready to make the jump from the academy to the second team.
I don't think you sign Ethan Horvath and then have Aiden Stokes compete for that role. Like that's just not happening. Exactly. Not in 2026. So
yeah.
Aiden Stokes is tall. Can we put him at center back?
Oh wow.
He used to play striker. He played striker growing up.
Just gotta take his gloves off when he gets on the field. All right. Preseason update. 3 matches down, 3 matches to go before it all counts. This week in East Hanover, the Red Bulls took on Hartford Athletic of the USL Championship and took him to the woodshed over a 120-minute match. What? In something like 15-degree temperatures, where the players played in woolen hats, gloves, and jackets. Goals from Justin Shea and Julian Hall, who also will now have a challenge getting on the field. Andy Rojas gets a goal, assisted by Wiki Carmona. Audrey Mehmedi gets a goal. We know his dad was very excited about that. And Victor Bogash got a goal in the 111th minute. And over the last day or so, there's been a little bit of little rumor that Bogash, there's some interest from back in Poland to have him. And, I'll be the first to say, if he wants to go back, that's totally fine. Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, based on roster construction, they need to either trade for 2 international slots or get off of 2 international slots. So if Red Bull and this team in Poland can figure out a loan, I think he's got talent, right? So if you can send him out on loan and get him regular minutes out in Poland, I would definitely do that in a heartbeat. It also frees up an international slot. So definitely interesting. He's definitely a name that I thought would be kind of on the doorstep heading out to get some opportunity. So we'll see. There's definitely something to keep an eye on.
I mean, other than one flash of brilliance from Bogash, he hasn't shown it yet. Certainly not consistently. And to be fair, he hasn't played a lot of minutes. And, he's in a foreign land far away. I get it, but this would not be terrible for me. Just quickly, the preseason schedule. As it stands, this Saturday, the Red Bulls will visit Dallas and Frisco and then stay for a few days to take on Atlanta, and then they'll head to Houston a week from Saturday. We'll be back next week to talk about how things are going on. And then Mike's raising his eyebrows and then his hand.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the Hartford game too. Like, look, Bogash got his first goal of the preseason in the 111th minute, and it was a weird game because it felt like Red Bull scored early in that one. I couldn't Bobby Valentine my way into the game, unfortunately, but Red Bull scored early, got held up for 45 minutes, and then they just scored 2 goals in the 80th minute, and then they played 30 more minutes for some reason, and it took Bogosh 3 minutes coming off the bench to score. So there was a lot of roster rotation in that game.
Yes.
Hartford seemed to play them tough enough that they were like holding them up at times, and Bogosh would be able to immediately come on the field and score. So, hey, I'm not saying that means anything. I'm just saying good for him to come in cold like that.
Yeah, I think everyone was cold, first of all.
Literally.
And secondly, USL
Dang it.
Championship.
It wasn't a pun.
USL defenses were terrified, certainly, in the late going. Just a quick look before we go to break about all the changes that we've had.
Boy.
Out this year now: Coronel, Duncan, Edelman, Eile, Hack, Morales, Morgan, Nealis, and Stroud. Marcel Morales was loaned out back to his native land for the year, which is fine because this was not a good experience for him last year. And then Benedetti got promoted. Shea, Cowell, Horvath, Marcucci, Parker, Ruvalcaba, the big signing, and Voloder as well. And I guess there's one more spot on this document for another defender to come in, but you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members of the 2025 back defensive core of this team are not here in 2026. So, I mean, you can't say that Julian hasn't been incredibly busy, and you can't say that he hasn't been imprinting himself on the team. And I know that fans, I think, are of two minds. One is, I never know who's on this team anymore. Right. Because people have to say something, and it's valid, because when you go to the stadium, you want to be able to identify the players. However, when you miss the playoffs for the first time in 15 years, you bring in a new GM and a new head coach, and you say, blow it up and start over. And we shouldn't be under any other illusion that this has been an absolute gut renovation of the roster, guys.
And like, not just to mention that, there's only 3 players left on this roster that started MLS Cup Final 2024. And I'll be honest with you, if Cam Harper wasn't hurt and in recovery, it'd probably be 2.
Yeah.
So it's just going to show like there is no sympathy. There's no like, love. There's probably a little bit of love, but it's like, we're not keeping you just for the vibes anymore. We're going to make decisions if we have to. And that is it's heartbreaking, but also really good, because I think there's a lot of the fan base who they like Wiki Carmonas, and they like their people who like they want to see do well.
Do they?
Even though it's like they aren't doing great. But it's just like, oh, he's trying his hardest though. And we're now at a point where the team is just going where we have to do what we gotta do.
Yeah. Dan, any thoughts?
Yeah, and I feel like we would talk in the media for like amongst ourselves for like the past year, where we're like, yeah, this team needs a reset, but we would do the talking and be like, but it's not gonna happen. Like they'll just keep rolling it the same. And credit to them, they've done it. They came into this offseason knowing what they needed to do, and they've gotten most of it done. So I didn't expect everything to change in the last couple of months, but they've done a lot. We just showed the graphics. So many players in, so many players out. They've gotten rid of a lot of dead weight off this roster and kind of built it the way they wanted to. So definitely not done. There's still some more moves to make, but for me, they've done an excellent job at what they wanted to do coming into this winter.
Especially when you consider, guys, they had almost exclusively long-term contracts. They were very few players who were out of contract for New York at the end of the year. It was Coronel, who departed, went back to Brazil. It was Kyle Duncan, who was looking for his next gig. It was Tim Parker, who they re-signed, and Marcucci, who they resigned. And they moved a lot of contracts through trades to clean up this roster. And the last thing I'll say before we go to break and bring on our friend Joe Pantorno is, you can't change unless you change. You literally have to commit to being very different from what you were before if you want to go to a different place. And so, it may take half a season for them to figure it out. It might not. The players are very, very taken with Michael Bradley. I think the question is, how quickly can it all come together? Okay, so like I said, we're going to go have this quick break. And when we're back, our first ever Keepers Mailbag and your emails. Actually, that's not the case. We're going to talk to Joe Pantorno, and then we'll be back with email. It's true. Esra Dodd. Keep it here. Back we are at Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Less than 3 weeks to go until it actually counts for the New York Red Bulls, or for Red Bull New York, the new New York Red Bulls. They're very new, and we're very pleased to have a very old friend here back with us this week. It's Joe Pantorno, who's the sports editor at AM New York. Joe, welcome back to Seeing Red, sir. How are you?
Hello, friend. I'm doing well. Very excited to be back here and ready to ramp up some Red Bull talk. It feels like it's been a very long off season.
Well, it's been the longest off season for the Red Bulls since 2009. So I get that. When you don't play into the playoffs, it makes it a challenge. But there has been more news and more change than ever, seemingly in years. And this is a team that, of course, is addicted to reinvention to begin with. Curious what your overall take is in what clearly has to be a complete gut renovation of this New York Red Bull roster.
Yeah, this is really them pulling off a rebuild without using that dreaded word. The brain trust is completely different in terms of who is pulling the strings in terms of roster construction. It's a completely different philosophy that's going to come in for the first time and sort of tweak what has been the Red Bull way. The styles are going to be different. It's going to be almost like a bit of a culture shock. I think it would be the best way that I could put it down for Red Bull fans or Red Bulls fans. Same thing. We're still struggling with that. But regardless, growing pains are anticipated, I would say. But this sort of refresh was a necessity because I think for years there were a lot of people that were sort of pounding the table saying, change is needed. You can't be complacent with just making the playoffs. And it seems that missing it entirely is finally set things into motion, at least to that scale.
Yeah. One of the common points that Red Bull fans make when they get to the stadium, especially in this post-Shield era that continues and continues, is I don't know who these guys are anymore. And there's a lot that's been made over the idea that MLS Cup 24 was only 14 months ago, and yet there are only 3 of 11 starters from that game still on the field. Now, you can make the argument that Michael Bradley, although, yes, it's his first top-tier head coaching job, he did a masterful job in getting the reserves to that league's title. And so what we've heard from Bradley, we heard from Bradley yesterday, I think should give New York fans a reason for optimism, at least from what the coach is selling.
Yeah, and I kind of think back to the beginning of Major League, if you guys have ever seen that movie where, Cleveland is trying to tank and
right.
fans are like, who are these guys? Like, we don't know these guys. And it's one of those things where, you can't really judge until you see the finished product on the field. And obviously there's still some time for things to change before then. And again, it might take some time to gel as well. But in terms of, again, just what this organization needed, this is it. And you hear this story across any other professional sporting league when you have a complete shift in leadership. You want the general managers, the head of sports, the head coaches to bring in their guys.
Right.
This is Julian de Guzman and Michael Bradley's opportunity to bring in their guys. So maybe sometimes, that significant overturn from the MLS Cup final team might seem a little harsh to some. Again, this is just a new era, and this is this
again,
is leadership's way of kind of sinking or swimming.
A new era again. It was really interesting yesterday during the presser to hear from Dylan Nealis, who at 27 is a seasoned pro. He's been in the league for 6 years. He's played for a lot of coaches over that time for a couple of MLS franchises, but he said the direction that we're getting from Bradley is the clearest we've had since we've been there, since he's been there, which I thought was really kind of refreshing and eye-opening, especially when we consider, the caliber of an international coach like a Sandro Schwartz who'd come in and coached in the Bundesliga, and yet here's a U.S. soccer icon, a coach's son, who we all knew that this day would come, that he'd be coaching a first team, and yet to be able to provide that much detail and direction to a veteran player, and to be clear, Nealis was very happy about it. I mean, he was overjoyed in sharing that he knows exactly what the expectations are. He knows exactly why decisions are made and why he's being asked to do different things. And this is a nice segue to the next question, which is going to be about the back line. But I just want to get your reaction to a veteran coach. And then, of course, followed up by Ronnie Donkor, who says he has an amazing relationship with Bradley just 3 weeks into the job.
Yeah, there's something to be said about the sort of pragmatism that Bradley has approached this with. And he hasn't been shy in admitting that, hey, again, this is my first top flight professional gig. And, I'm going to be learning with these guys, just as much as they're going to be learning from me.
That's right.
But in a way, it's imperative that this group has an MLS veteran, somebody who is familiar with the entire structure and the system, and somebody who's kind of come up through the ranks. And, it's coming from a point where, again, this is somebody who is saying, okay, it wasn't that long ago where I was in some of these guys' shoes. What did maybe I need at that time?
Right.
And there is a certain sort of nurturing factor, again, that we saw last year at the MLS Next Pro level that you're seeing now in these very early stages of 2026. And obviously the roster, the players are responding to it. And sort of to have that kind of stabilizing, that presence that's sort of been there and done that, per se. Yeah. Maybe not somebody who say, okay, I coached in the Bundesliga. Well, that's great. It's as high profile and electric as that is, it's not MLS. It is still, as much as they are trying to get it up to that level, it's still a completely different animal.
The next thing I want to talk to you about is certainly is on the backline side. Over the offseason, New York departed with Sean Nealis, who had been the only pro team that this kid has ever played for, departed with Alexander Hack. And then this week, just hours after the presser, we learned that Noah Eile has been sold to our friend Gerhard Struber at Bristol City for over $4 million, which is a great 2-year earn back for New York for sure. But it leaves the team with Tim Parker and Robert Volodare, who was let go from Sporting KC. We heard during the presser that maybe guys that maybe aren't really accustomed to playing center back like Dylan Nealis and Justin Shea. We know he can do it, but nevertheless, it may be an adventure. Is this a team, Joe, that we think is going to try to win games 4-3 and 5-4 without a lockdown defense?
It certainly seems that way right now. And I will obviously share this with you, and I'll be writing this a little bit later this afternoon. But sources have indicated that New York is indeed still very busy in the market right now, trying to bring in center back reinforcements. So while again, we spoke with Dylan yesterday, and he said that Michael had talked to him about playing center back, and it's a new challenge, and he did prove himself in the few games that he did play there.
Yes.
I would assume that would be not a worst case scenario that you enter the season with him as the starting center back, but that would be the organization's secondary option. And obviously, again, the transfer window is still open for a few more weeks. There is time for something to get done. They have been linked with Diogo Bagui, 20-year-old Ecuadorian. Is that going to move the needle? If something were to get done on that end, that's a big ask. And in the meantime, there's only kind of been initial interest shown. Nothing has really advanced from that interest. So you're going to see that name again pop up the next few days. And that's kind of the latest that at least I have right now. But other than that, there really hasn't been much progress made with any other potential targets. So they are working on it. But we should probably get some more clarity maybe a little bit further down the road. And when I say that, I mean, the next few days to the next week, perhaps.
Right. Well, as we know, it's 18 days till the season kicks off in Orlando, so they got to get a move on. Lastly, sir, New York, for the last year and a half, Red Bull fans were just itching to have that third DP slot filled. And that actually happened this week with Jorge Ruvalcaba coming in from Pumas, a speedy winger with lots of Liga MX experience. He's an American, so he doesn't take up an international slot, which is an extra bonus. Interesting, the wrinkle that he may be paid down with TAM to move him off of that DP contract and open up another DP slot in years to come. But I mean, we can't certainly say that Julian de Guzman has been sitting on his hands. As we said at the start, this has been a complete reboot of the New York Red Bulls. And now with a speedy Cade Cowell and a speedy Ruvalcaba on the other side, feeding balls in to Choupo-Moting, and with Forsberg supporting, you have kind of a supercharged attack that we haven't seen in at least a couple of seasons.
Yeah, this is going to be probably one of the more attacking, affluent Red Bull teams that you will see in quite some time. And it's sort of, these were the playmakers that were needed to enhance this sort of possession-based style that Michael Bradley is going for. And you have extremely similar players with Cole and Ruvalcaba kind of flanking Choupo-Moting here, who, again, he must be salivating at the prospect of having these two kind of playmakers flanking him. It's a significant upgrade to maybe where things were last season, and the over dependence on Lewis Morgan, and look what happened. Obviously, unfortunately, when he wasn't able to stay healthy, it was a bad break. But the fact that de Guzman was able to get this done and sort of supplement the depth that was already existing on the roster and kind of put them in the proper places, whether it's Sofo, whether it's Cam Harper, he played it pretty well. And again, the expectation is that Ruvalcaba will just be inhabiting that third DP slot just for 2026.
Yeah.
And one of the important things when it came to sort of courting him was that financial flexibility that would come with it. So I guess you could say it's a win-win in that regard. Ruvalcaba should absolutely benefit from, playing in that attacking trio. And again, New York has sort of rounded out its attack quite well. So this is a dynamic, fast, entertaining front line. And I think it would make a lot of Red Bull supporters quite happy.
Yeah, and the other side of that coin is if you're Cam Harper, who's coming back from a serious injury, or you Mohamed Sofo, who faded so seriously down the second half of 2025. I mean, these guys were getting playing time because there really weren't any options, and they've just frankly been pushed down the depth chart, and it's going to be, I think, a real challenge for either of these guys to break in. And for a player like Harper, who has spoken publicly about the notion of earning yet another coach's trust. I mean, he's on his third or fourth coach here with the Red Bulls in a very short amount of time. But that's professional sports, and that's what it's all about. Joe, where can folks find you on the internet?
Yeah, so I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Joe Pantorno, no spaces. You can read my work on amny.com. you're in the city, we're on stands around the Big Apple for free. What a concept! Free news. So I'm looking forward to connecting and hopefully making some more friends this season.
Fantastic. It's going to be a very, very busy sports year. And on behalf of New York Red Bull fans everywhere, I just want to thank you so much for the serious effort that you guys put in on covering not only the sport, but the Red Bulls team. I know it means a lot. And thanks so much for stopping by.
Of course, I really appreciate it. And really, it's my pleasure. That means a lot. Thank you, Mark.
Awesome. We've got your emails coming up after this short break. So please stay with us. Back on Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup, we are very excited to be partnering with Keepers Restaurant in Harrison, New Jersey this year. Keepers is the neighborhood bar that's right across the street from Sports Illustrated Stadium, and they have soccer going on all year long, whether it's EPL, whether it's WSL, whether it's MLS or NWSL. There is tons and tons of soccer going on. It doesn't have to be on Red Bull game days. And in fact, once again, we are going to be there on Saturday, February 21st for our live pregame show to get everyone caught up and ready to go for the Red Bulls at Orlando. Very, very exciting. And a reminder as we open the Keeper Mailbag that you can write us at any time, day or night, as long as you're connected to the internet at seeingredny@gmail.com. And we've got 2 emails tonight, and the first is from our friend John Vanessa, long time viewer and listener. He says, Mark and team, hey team, welcome back for the 26th season. I would admit I was a little nervous when Bradley was first appointed as coach, but after hearing his early press conferences, I've come around completely. This year already feels like a high-risk, high-reward season. We've got a young, energetic manager, a roster built around players who can press relentlessly, and a few experienced DPs to balance things out, and a young DP. I'm more excited for a Red Bull season than I have been in a long time. And that leads me to a prediction. I think the Red Bulls will make the playoffs with a negative goal differential. With the players we have so far and the style and play I expect we'll play, I can see us winning comfortable in many matches, but against some top teams, I can see us getting absolutely battered. With this, I have 2 questions. Do you have any Red Bull specific predictions for the season? And how would you feel about spending a DP spot on a defender to balance the spine of the team and shore up our defense against quick counters? And that was written before Ruvalcaba was signed, so we're not going to answer that part. Excited as we get built up for the season. Now, I know, guys, we've still got 2.5 weeks to go, and we've got 3 preseason games to go. Throw out one prediction. We'll get into it certainly during our live show at Keepers, but give us a prediction, please.
Yeah, I'll go first. I kind of just came up with it right now, but I think this thing. Obviously he wrote this question before Ruvalcaba was brought in, but looking at this attack and the midfield that they're able to kind of put out there, I could see this team jumping in top 10 goals scored this year. So I think this team will be very, very good attacking this year. I think if I was looking right, they only averaged like 1.4 or 1.2 goals last year, which was, I think, 17th.
Wasn't good.
It wasn't good. And expected goals was even worse in the bottom third of the league. So I think this team, attacking wise, is going to be very, very good. So yeah, top 10 attack this year.
In attack. All right, Mike, do you have a prediction for this year?
Yeah. I agree. Wow. I agree with the fact that we are a kind of team where we'll do well against middle teams. We'll do okay against good teams. We can get, and there's a lot of teams that will clobber us. Do I think we make the playoffs? It's up in the air. But there's a competition where we're playing a lot of mid-table MLS teams.
Oh, is that the U.S. Open Cup?
That is the U.S. Open Cup. So my prediction is the Red Bulls are going to win the U.S. Open Cup.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Here's my prediction. I think that while we saw a fantastic season out of Choupo-Moting in his first season in the league, now that he's going to be getting quality service, not just from Forsberg, but from the wings, I'm going to say that Choupo-Moting is going to impress upon his 17 goals this year, and he'll get 20 in 2026. I think he's going to be among the top 3 or 4 players on the Golden Boot race. He may not win it, not in a league when Messi this year, but I think that he is definitely going to be a bigger factor on the Golden Boot table. So thank you so much. Yes, and Dan has a comment.
You said we won't be answering the second question. I'll still answer the second question.
Okay. Should we sign a DP defender?
No, but that's not because we don't have a slot. Personally, my whole thing is there's not enough excellent defenders in the league that you need to be spending DP spots. Right. That's just my philosophy. I think a DP spot should be used on guys that will impact the game a lot more than a center back will. Now, I'm not saying center backs don't impact the game.
Right.
I feel like you can go out there and sign 2 quality center backs for not DP money and get, more value in that than spending, a couple million on salary on a DP. Right. I actually think a DP slot would be better used on a goalkeeper than a center back, because goalkeepers are much more impactful for me, making saves, all this and that. So that's my answer.
Awesome. I like it.
No, don't sign a DP center back.
All right. Here's another email, and thank you, John, for your note. Here's an email from Scott Howie. Scott is in Hoboken, and he says, help me understand why the Red Bulls would let Noah Eile go. New York constantly talks about building the squad with young talent, and yet they have a pretty poor track record over the last few years, except for Noah Eile. Apparently, this is John Tolkien erasure. Eile is already one of the best players and someone they can build around. A big transfer fee is nice, but it's hard to have confidence that the Red Bulls can turn it into a replacement for Eile and something more with the season starting in 3 short weeks. That's Scott Howie from Hoboken. Who wants to take this first? Yeah, Dan.
Yeah, I think we touched on it a bit earlier. It's, when you have a young player of Noah Eile's quality, right, and kind of stature and his, talent level, eventually he's going to go. You can do whatever it is, right? Eventually he's gonna want to take that next step. He's got the talent to be playing in some of the best leagues in the world. Obviously, he went to the championship. That's just another step in his development to kind of showcase to other teams around the world that he is who we think he is, and that is one of the better center back prospects in the world, right? U23 center back. So I don't think Red Bull could do much more other than say, no, we won't sell you. But like at a certain point, you got to take what the best value you can get on the market is, right? If you didn't sell, he'd only have, if you went through this year, right, you kept him, he'd only have a year left on his contract. His value would go down based on that alone. So with 2 years left on his contract, this is probably the maximum amount of value that you're going to get from him. So to get 4.5, 5 mil, whatever you kind of want to believe is out there, that number, I mean, that's a great number. Matt Miazga went for 5 million. So if you're able to get that, you kind of have to take the money if you're in Red Bull's case, and, to kind of showcase to other players that might be interested in Red Bull to kind of elevate themselves for future moves. It shows that Red Bull is willing to move guys on to the next step in their career. So I think this is something Red Bull had to do. Not only do they get the money, but, they kind of elevate themselves as a developmental place where you can come in, play a couple of years, elevate yourself, and we'll get you a move to Europe.
Yeah, I like that. Mike, any thoughts on Mr. Eile and his early move to England?
Yeah, the Red Bull organization has shown that they are not just, especially Red Bull New York, they're not going to be a team that says, we're not going to trade you. There's only been like a handful of examples I could think of where this got into a deep argument.
Yeah,
we traded guys in the middle of the season to Mexico so they could be with their girlfriend. Like, we'll just we'll do whatever we have to. We'll do whatever they want at a certain point. And that's for better or for worse. I think it's a class organizational move. But on the business end of it, he wanted to go to Europe, and the team made bank off it. It's not like he was a charity case. We got $4 million for it. So it's a smart business move. It keeps players happy. And I think that it sends like kind of what Dan was saying, it sends that message to the team that the management is not your enemy. The management is going to work with you and wants what's best for you. If you're an older guy, we're going to bring you in and you're going to play a role. If you're a younger guy, we're going to develop you. And when you think you're going to make it or you're not, they know that players aren't going to spend 20 plus years at a single club in MLS. This is not England. So yeah, you called it a sellers league. So yeah, it's a sellers league. So overall, not shocked by it at all. Does that mean they should have maybe fought back a little more so they didn't have, no center backs? Probably, but
Well, the fact that this came so late in the transfer window perhaps meant that this was a little bit of a surprise to them as the offseason started. Again, I think to build on what Dan and Mike were saying, Scott, I would love it for all the young stars to be able to stay here and play out their careers. It seems like this is not the year for that. In a year when Peter Stroud and Danny Edelman were moved along just with the idea that, yeah, you were here, but now it's time for you to do something else was the message. And these are homegrown players, right? And we've rarely seen that happen where homegrown players were moved within the league just because their quote unquote development time was up. I think this year, when the team missed the playoffs in the last season, and everything is getting pulled back to the beams and recast, it's not a terrible time to go and take a large profit on a young international talent. I mean, the other piece, and I'll interject here, real life. If I'm a European passport, probably a trip back to the other side of the pond isn't the worst thing right now, based on how things are going here. So I just think that it is frustrating because he was the star of that line. But in a universe of players and in a world of defenders, I'm pretty confident that New York will bring something into the fold that'll try to help make it up. And again, 5-4 games are really exciting, and 4-3 games are really exciting, and even a 3-2 game is exciting. So I would much rather have the team be a little more dynamic at the top of the formation than be locked down at the back. I mean, we all remember that Armis won 5 straight 1-0 games at the end of the 2018 season, where it was great because they were winning and they won the Shield, but at the same time it was like just a grind. So I think you're going to see a lot of shootouts, and time will tell as to whether this was a good move. But nevertheless, it's been a fantastic episode of Seeing Red. Thanks to Joe Pantorno for coming by. Once again, thanks to the folks at Keepers for sponsoring our mailbag segment all season long. We appreciate you. We can't wait till February 21st when we're there for our live pregame before the season kicks off. Gentlemen, any closing notes?
Reben, you first.
No, other than, preseason is just going by really fast. We're almost here. February's already here. January went by like it was nothing. So just want to shout out to Mark for having us on. Super Bowl's around the corner. Mark, are you a Patriots fan?
No.
Oh,
no.
I just wanted to.
Why? What?
Well,
what?
You want to be you, so I don't know.
No, my friend, that's a good point, but no, No, I am not going to be rooting for the New England Patriots. All in with the Seahawks all the way. Mike, your thoughts?
I mean, look, if my boy Tommy DeVito wins a Super Bowl ring. Closing thoughts is, it's a crazy time right now in soccer, and it's only going to get worse / better this year, because once this season starts, the team will be back at. I almost had to put a dollar in the jar.
You did a good job.
at SIS on February 28th, like a week after the road opener. And then, it all comes around with competition, game after game, a lot of leagues starting up. So it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be wild. And hey, there's a World Cup around the corner.
Yep, that as well. Thanks so much for watching Seeing Red 641. We'll be back next week as the preseason nears its completion, and maybe we'll have 6 more new players. We'll see. Thanks so much for watching, everyone.
More goalkeepers.
Yeah. Good night.